mean, that's how it starts. That's what we need as an offense, and especially moving forward to the playoff. That's what we need from the boys. Everybody getting on the right spot and create a momentum to get hot and take that step to the playoffs.
Man, I feel like I've been feeling myself from before I got put on the IL with the ankle. To be honest, that was when I was feeling it again. I'm just back in the rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that matters is winning. So, for me to get a day off, had confidence in the team that they're going to go out there and perform and, leave it all out there. And they did that. So, to sit back and watch a game was pretty fun.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV. I am Marty Cassavell. That is AJ Cassavell here on a Monday. Don't check your screen. It's not Tuesday. Today is Monday. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Thank you all so much for joining us today on a Monday. Normally, we have AJ Cassavell on Tuesdays, but tomorrow's a big travel day. Padres at the Mets. And I think AJ he's back in OB wearing he's representing with his OB hat. AJ Cassavell, how are you today? I have a ton of questions about magic numbers, best case scenarios, itineraries. So I'm glad to have you join me today.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I think this is kind of maybe I'm happy I'm traveling tomorrow, even though it's going to be chaotic getting to New York and then going straight to the game. And we have some help in New York. That's where the MLB offices are based. And there's other reporters that help out, but I'll be flying out very early, landing, going directly to the game, covering the game. Sounds like a chaotic day tomorrow, but I'm happy that I have today to kind of reset, because basically starting tomorrow, it's not the playoffs, but it kind of feels like clinch scenarios and division races. It feels like, obviously it doesn't feel like the playoffs are starting, but it feels like the playoff push is really starting. So this is, let's make this the demarcating line. Yep. Everything that happens from here on out is the really fun stuff.
It's go time, as the players have been saying for a while. It's go time. It's crunch time. Now, in that open, you heard about he's talking about this is where it starts now. Jackson Merrill was saying that right now he feels like himself from early in the season, before the various injuries that derailed him. So that's a good sign for the Padres offense. I'm going to get to what Mike Schultz said a little bit later on in the show about his dynamic duo and what that could mean for this lineup going forward. But AJ, yesterday you were a very, very busy, popular man in that clubhouse with various media members asking you to please explain the Padres' actual magic number right now here on September 15th. What is it exactly to just clinch a playoff spot?
It's 6. There's like magic numbers are very confusing for a lot of reasons. The big reason being that like obviously, if you look at it this way, like the Padres, how many games do the Padres need to win to make the playoffs? It's 6. But then obviously the number goes down every time the team that's the first team on the outside of the playoff picture looking in loses a game. That number goes down. The problem being that team can change. That team can be multiple teams who are tied, which is the case this year. That team can be 3 different teams that are essentially tied, which is actually what the case is this year, because the Diamondbacks are also involved. So, like, the long story short, if the Padres win 6 games, they clinch their spot in the postseason. Those 3, let's take the Mets out of the equation because they have the number 6 seed right now. You're looking at the teams that are outside. If the Giants, Diamondbacks, and Reds all lose a game, they would have to all lose a game, because right now their maximum win total is the same in terms of passing the Padres. If they all lose a game, that number goes down to 5. If they all lose another game, that number goes down to 4. So if you're just kind of worried about like when could the Padres clinch, the earliest date is now Friday, now that the Diamondbacks won yesterday. That wouldn't seem to make a lot of sense on the surface, but because the Diamondbacks and the Giants are playing, that means one of them will not be losing those games.
Right.
So the earliest the Padres can clinch is Friday. I wouldn't expect it Friday. I would expect it potentially early next homestand, but we're getting to the point where it's somewhat inevitable. I mean, like, even if the Padres go just completely flounder, there's almost no chance that the Padres will miss the postseason. Their focus should be on the National League West, because I think what lies ahead this week is very interesting, with the Dodgers playing the Phillies and the Padres playing the Mets. Like, there's potential for all sorts of shakeups in that race. And then the Padres follow that with a series against the White Sox, while the Dodgers are playing a series against the Giants, who have a lot to play for. So really fun week ahead. If you're a magic number person like I am, very much, like the number is 6. It doesn't go down, but it doesn't go down if just the Reds lose or if just the Giants lose. It would need all of them would have to lose for that number to go down.
What is the magic number for the Dodgers to win the NL West? You have that number handy.
That one's a lot easier. That one's a lot easier to find because that's just 2 teams, and the Dodgers have that tiebreaker. So essentially, the Padres are 82 and 68. The Dodgers are 84 and 65. The best the Padres can get to right now would be 94. So then the Dodgers' magic number is 10.
Okay. Last week when I had
very quick math, but I think it's right.
Okay, which I expect from you. And we're all here. We're all depending on you, AJ, because none of us are capable of doing this, which is why, again, I'm telling you, everyone that press box is asking AJ, what's the magic number right now? What is it? After the podcast,
it's literally just counting. It's literally just counting. But I'm the one that likes doing the counting, so I had a little chart yesterday with all the tiebreakers because I had to make sure that the Giants couldn't win any potential tiebreaker against the Padres. Obviously, they're not winning the head-to-head tiebreaker because the Padres kicked the crap out of them this season. But like any 3-team or 4-team or 5-team tiebreaker, and they cannot. So the Padres will win any tiebreaker they have with the Giants.
AJ, last week when I was speaking to Kyle Glazer of Friar Territory about the different scenarios and where these teams were, I officially waved the white flag on the NL West, but now I'm back in. I'm back in, right? Which leads me to that question.
It's unlikely.
Do they have a better chance of winning the West or the top wildcard seed? 2.5 behind the Dodgers, 3.5 behind the Cubs. But listen, the Dodgers have as challenging a schedule as any team out there, still fighting for something, starting even tonight with the Phillies, who clinched a playoff spot, but did not clinch that number 2 seed. But they can do that tonight at Dodger Stadium, right? If they win. If I have that right.
Yeah, I think they clinched the division with a win. I think they still need a couple more to clinch that number 2 seed, which is obviously they're going to be playing for that. They're going to be playing hard for that. That's more important than winning a division. That's essentially the equivalent of winning a playoff series. The Dodgers have a tough schedule. I think it's possible the Padres have to play really well, and they really haven't since in the last month. Like if they had played, I don't know what the numbers are, but as of 2 days ago, I know if they had played 500 ball in their past 24 games, or I don't know what the number was, they would have been in first place, but they've just kind of underperformed. I am willing to give them a pass on that because every team deals with dog days, and these dog days were a little bit later. But if you look at what the dog days should have been, which is usually that week or two after the trade deadline, that was when they were playing the Dodgers. So they were obviously heightened intensity then. If they were feeling kind of the exhaustion of the season a little bit when they went on that trip through Seattle and Minnesota and then had to come back home and play the Orioles right away, it's hard. The baseball season is long, and it's hard to kind of be on your A game the entire season. That's not to say they still just get a pass for not winning the West, because I think they put themselves in a position to do so when they had finished that Dodger series, and now it seems unlikely. I'm saying don't rule them out because of what these schedules are over the next week, but also they need to play a lot better than they've played over the last month in order to get there. I think, what do they have, 12 games left? If the Padres can go 10-2 in those 12 games, which seems difficult to do. It is difficult to do. It's the major leagues, but they have 3 games against the White Sox. They have 3 games against the Mets team that had been reeling. I guess let's maybe not look at it through the 12-game lens. Let's look at it through these next 6 games. The Padres need to have a really good road trip to put themselves in position, or else when they come home next week, the division will likely be, unless they play well on this road trip, the division will likely be gone, and their focus will be on clinching a playoff spot, which, again, I would expect at some point early on the homestand.
They have to take care of their own business, starting with the Mets, which is tomorrow night. Now, I guess, and the Mets are a desperate team, right? I think they just lost. They had a walk-off yesterday, which snapped an 8-game losing streak. But since June 12th, only the Rockies and the Twins have worse records than the 32-49 Mets. I think at that point on June 12th, they had a 96% chance of making the playoffs. And now there's a bunch of teams hot on their heels. The Giants, like you mentioned, the D-backs, and the Cincinnati Reds. And I believe tomorrow is Michael King and Clay Holmes.
Michael King versus Clay Holmes. And I want to say they're really good friends from their time with the Yankees. I've talked to Michael King about Clay Holmes because I know Clay Holmes also made the transition to being a starter once he left the Yankees bullpen. So that'll be a really fun one. I like there's some similarities there. I don't think necessarily in like how they pitch, but just in their journeys. And I'm a little bummed because I didn't know who was starting for the Mets on Tuesday until we left after the game yesterday. I would have loved to have asked Michael King about this beforehand, but I know for a fact that he is probably pretty ramped up for this.
I'm sure he is. And then Pavetta and David Peterson on Wednesday. And I think it's Randy Vasquez, right? Has Mike Schill announced who the starter is going to be for the final game?
They haven't announced it yet, but I would expect it to be
Vasquez.
Vasquez would be lined up, and I think Vasquez has made a nice case to pitch in big games down the stretch. Like he's and if anything, like this is a fun little test. It's not a playoff series, but it's a playoff type atmosphere. The Mets really need this. Vasquez has his chance to kind of prove himself and assert himself in that postseason roster. I don't think he's getting a wild card series start or anything like that, but he can earn a long man role. He can. If he pitches well against the Mets, he can put himself in pretty good position to pitch meaningful innings in October.
And then he'll be facing Jonah Tong, who one of the Mets top prospects who was just called up, I think like a week or so ago. So that'll be an interesting series. All right, AJ, I have been bugging you selfishly for my own purposes because I want to figure out like if I'm going to go ahead and make plans. And I'm sure there are fans wondering they want to follow this team. Should the Padres not, win the West? They're likely going to end up on the road. What is the most likely first round scenario for the Padres?
At this point, I think you asked me this like last week, and I was kind of uncertain. At this point, it's the Cubs on the road, and I would put that with like 75% confidence because there's still a chance the Padres could obviously win the division, and in that case, they would host the Mets or the Giants or something like that. There's still a chance the Padres could catch the Cubs, and in that case, they would host the Cubs. But those scenarios, and there's also the chance they could, I don't know, get swept by the Mets, lose a couple games of the Mets, and then the Mets get hot and overtake them, and the Padres are playing in LA in a wild card series, which that would be something else. I don't know if we want to see that. Like I will hold off on Padres Dodgers. Let's wait to see that till the NLCS if that's going to happen. That would be my preference. I personally don't want to see that as a first round series. That's just speaking from narrative perspective. Like that series needs to be the end all be all. That series needs to be 7 if we see it again. Anyway, likeliest option is not that. Likeliest option is Padres head into Chicago. And I know you've been bugging me for potential like all my itineraries. Like that, I think that's how you know like what is actually likely and what isn't likely, because what I have booked on this Marriott app right now are hotels for the wild card series. I have hotels in LA and Chicago. Okay. For those 3 games, and like those are, I think, the only 2 possibilities. There's my canceled hotels, and I think you asked me about this last week, and I had a lot more options. Well, you asked me about it in my Bonvoy app wasn't opening. My canceled hotels I have a pretty long list because the Phillies moving into clear possession of that number 2 seed, and the Padres not having a chance at it, and the Dodgers not having a chance at it, changed a lot of things. Okay. So, like, it essentially narrows it down. The Padres are either playing in Chicago or LA, or they're hosting a series. And those are really the 3 options. Chicago is by far the most likely. I think hosting a series is the second most likely. And then if the Padres have a tough series against the Mets and then the Mets overtake them, there's a possibility they're playing in LA.
I don't have the direct head-to-head in front of me. How did the Padres match up with the Cubs this season?
3-3, and all the games were in April. So it's
changed a lot. It's completely different teams.
It changed a lot. Yeah, there was that comeback on Sunday. They had a Sunday afternoon game at Wrigley, and it was cold, and they were losing by like 4 runs, and they came back to win that. And I think if you look at the tiebreaker is going to have to come down to a bunch of other things, including like divisional record, and so like that's not settled yet. But that could be the difference if the Padres were to catch the Cubs in the Padres winning the tiebreaker, is that comeback on that Sunday at Wrigley. That was I remember that being cold, but I also remember it being a really fun game. I think Jackson Merrill had a big 3-run homer. So, I mean, Padres Cubs at Wrigley would be really fun baseball. Some good pitching matchups and storylines. I would be very. It's obviously not what the Padres want because they want to win the division, but that would be pretty fun. And then the paths from there, like the rest of my itinerary is like either Philadelphia or Milwaukee if they can win. And then I've only booked Philadelphia and Milwaukee for the potential LCS. I don't go too far out down the road.
What's stopping you, AJ? Go for it. Let's go.
What's stopping me is the fear of forgetting I have something in my app and forgetting to cancel it and being charged. So I like to take it kind of a couple series at a time.
How much work right now do you think the Padres are doing, that front office, the coaching staff is doing right now on trying to line up the rotation and say, if this happens, we'll rest this guy, push this guy around, and line things up to go ahead and maybe play? Because you're going to play 3 straight. If you, in the wild card, you're going to play 3 straight games, correct? There's no off day. You would play either 3 straight in San Diego or 3 straight in Chicago.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now they won't have a chance. I don't think the Phillies are so far ahead. They won't have a chance at getting a bye, and so like if you have the chance of getting the bye, you attack that so aggressively. Like if they're in the last day of the season with a chance to get a bye, like you're probably pitching Nick Pivetta or Michael King and wasting him for a potential wild card series because the bye is essentially the equivalent of winning a wild card series. That is out of the equation right now because the Phillies have moved ahead by so much. So the setup now is for the postseason rotation. And it was interesting that they called up JP Sears. I think they, like with Michael King and Yu Darvish and the injuries they've dealt with, they wanted to give them an extra rest day to kind of like this. I'm looking at kind of the way it all lines up. I don't necessarily see it being like a postseason rotation move. I think it's just like, let those guys get some rest because after Monday, it's kind of when it all starts going forward. And if I'm looking at how they're lining it up, I think, and granted, like you got to do some rotation math, you got to do some mental maneuvering, but I think it would be Pivetta game 1, King game 2, game 3 open. And you could do that. You could also, I mean, King would be lined up to pitch that game 2, and that's why I think that. You could also potentially ask him to pitch game 3 to give him extra rest. You could potentially skip his start in the rotation the turn before because the playoff start is obviously way more important. All of these things are dependent. They're not gonna finalize any of these plans until they've clinched. So they're not going to talk about any of these plans really until they've clinched or until they're right on the verge of clinching. But these are the things that I can have fun thinking about because, and I think fans have fun thinking about because those are like September 30th. I believe September 30th is game 1. It's that Tuesday. Like those games are going to be awesome. The Padres are going to be playing on September 30th. Almost certainly. I would put the chances at like 99% right now. I think if you look at the Fangraphs odds, their playoff odds are like 99.8, and there's almost no chance they're getting a bye. So like 99% chance you're gonna have to be locked in on September 30th with a game 1 starter with plans for the rest of that series, and it's likely going to be on the road. So who do you trust in those environments? I think you can reasonably say, like obviously we haven't seen Michael King. I think you can reasonably say you trust Michael King given what he did last year in the postseason. I think you can also reasonably say you trust Nick Pivetta given how good he's been this year. And then who do you trust in game 3? I think that's still to be determined, but I would say as of right now, Dylan Cease is the likeliest option.
Over Yu Darvish.
I mean, it's still up in the air. That is what they did. That is kind of what they did last year. I think the other thing with Cease and I don't know if they'll take this into account. Like you're going to have game 3 and it's going to be, if he's pitching game 3, your whole season's on the line. Dylan Cease has been so good at times this season. And then all of a sudden he's started to kind of teeter in like the 4th inning of games. Like there have been games where he's just been dominant from the start and then ends up giving up 4 runs because they ask him to kind of pitch through whatever struggles and he gives up a 3-run bomb. And he's talked a lot about that this season, about how maddening it is that he feels like his stuff is that good. And then he walks a couple guys and that's when the homer comes. That's when the bad pitch comes. I understand all that. You're playing on October 2nd with the whole season on the line. Dylan Cease has 3 perfect innings and then walks 2 guys in the 4th. You're going to Adrian Morejon. This bullpen is created for exactly that scenario, for exactly the scenario where your starter might be struggling a little bit early. Well, guess what? You've got 4 super high leverage options, and you're not letting Dylan Cease get that second time through the number 3 hitter or whatever. If he's not, unless he's kind of borderline perfect in that start. So having this bullpen helps solve a lot of question marks about the rotation. I think it'll be really interesting to see kind of how they line it up. I don't think they've really started to do it yet. But if you kind of do the math of who's pitching when, I think Pivetta, King, TBD.
You're asking me to do the math. That's why I'm asking you, because I can't do the math. So thanks for doing the work for me, AJ. All right, Manny, after all this conversation we've had, Manny Machado finally got a day off on Sunday, really 2 days off, although yesterday, travel day going to New York. I'd imagine until the Padres know exactly what their playoff fate is going to be, and I'm talking about wild card at home or on the road or division or wild card, that Manny Machado won't see a day off until then, right? I mean, you're gonna have all your guys available until you lock something up, barring.
Yeah, he's not
maybe
going to
something.
want a day off from here on
Yeah.
out. You kind of I mean, he said all the right things yesterday, but you kind of sense it that he did not want to have the day off, and he kind of begrudgingly accepted the day off, and he understands why he got the day off. He won't have another day off until what, like the Saturday on the final weekend of the season if they've already clinched.
Okay.
You get Xander Bogaerts back. I think you can maneuver the lineup so that Manny Machado gets a DH day somewhere in there. And I think that would make some sense. That's another aspect of all this. I think Bogaerts being hurt has kind of hurt the Padres a little bit in terms of who they can use at DH and when they can use Iglesias in the field. It's changed things a little bit, and so you get Bogaerts back maybe like a week from now, and if he's ready to go. I imagine you DH Bogaerts a game or two to kind of ease him back into the transition, but you can give some of those guys the rest they need because again, like they want to win the division, and they've spoken so much about winning the division. It would obviously mean a lot to the organization if the Padres could win the division. But if they're on the final day of the season and it's tied and they need to win that game to win the division, and the difference is like you're playing a home series against the Mets or a road series against the Cubs, well, there's no bye on the line. So you're not going to – I don't think you're going to – at least I would be stunned if they used like Nick Pivetta or Michael King or really attacked that final game. They'll still want to win the division, but the priority is obviously winning the wild card series that they, at this point, kind of know that's where they headed when they get in.
Got to imagine if it comes down to that final game. I think that final game, if the Padres are playing it'd
be fun. It'd be fun as heck, but I don't think you're going after it with Pivetta because you need to win on Tuesday more than you need to win the division.
100%. Dodgers finish. They'll be on the road, right? They finish on the road at the D-backs and the Mariners. Padres will be at home versus the Milwaukee, who have the Brewers, and then the D-backs. And I think of all the teams that you mentioned on the outside looking in, I think the D-backs have the toughest remaining schedule. I mean, everyone they're playing is a playoff team. So good luck to those D-backs, who, by the way, sold at the deadline. So you never know how it's going to shake up. All right, you mentioned Xander Bogaerts.
Let me just go, like the Padres series against the Diamondbacks. I want to say in like early July that they split. And the Padres did not look good at that time. Like the Padres earning that split, I think both wins were like 1-run wins. They had the 2 home run robberies. Like the Diamondbacks scared the heck out of me this season with that roster, that lineup, the pitching staff. I know they all got hurt, but like that was a scary team. And I think the Padres earning that split as opposed to kind of getting swept when I think they were maybe outplayed in those 4 games, but kind of gritted their way to 2 wins in that series. Like that may have forced the Diamondbacks to sell. And that series alone, like sometimes it's easy to overlook series in July, but that series alone may have kind of shifted the National League playoff picture because the Diamondbacks, instead of being 2.5 games back at the trade deadline, they were 4.5 or 5.5 back. I don't know where the Padres were and all that, whether it was head to head, but like that was a big series at the time. And I think it kind of became evident at the trade deadline. And now when I look at the standings and see the Diamondbacks right there, despite having sold all their guys, like that just keeps coming back to me.
That is a tough final homestand for the Padres. You're number one, you're playing the Brewers, who have the most wins in baseball right now, right? And then the D-backs, who are as you mentioned, they're grinding it out. They're grinders. AJ Cassavell. See what's going to happen. Okay, there you are. All right. Xander Bogaerts. So he left. He is in Arizona, correct, right now? And I think Mike Schultz said that he won't need a rehab assignment, so he could join the team this weekend.
Yeah, he's either in Arizona
Chicago?
Or headed to Arizona. I think that's the plan.
Okay.
Like it's I don't know whether it's Saturday or what day, but he's gonna do one of those rehabs. I think he did it last year when he had the shoulder thing, where he just plays in simulated games and gets like 12, 13 at bats, and then just gets a bunch of work at shortstop in a short period of time. I think him coming back will be a big deal. The fact that he's back with a week, 8 days left in the season or whatever, if that's what it ends up being, will also be a big deal because he can kind of get his footing under him and he's not just being thrust back into playoff baseball. So that's a positive sign for the Padres because when he went down with a fracture in his foot, like that's a little concerning. He says, I've spoken to him a couple times, he says he's feeling fine. But I still understand like waiting for that foot to heal because you can, if you don't wait for it to heal, you can kind of screw things up with your long-term and with like, if this were to recur, like you don't want this recurring. So I guess like getting Xander Bogaerts back does a lot for the lineup. You kind of have Jose Iglesias where he needs to be, which is coming off the bench, maybe starting against lefties. And then you can kind of use the DH maybe a little bit more liberally with some of those other guys in the infield. And you get Bogaerts' ramp up. Like you said, it's a super tough final week, but like, come on, September baseball. Like, that's fun. That's kind of what we want. And who knows who's going to be playing for what in that final week. That's still TBD.
Okay. Did you talk to Luis Ariz yesterday in post game? I think I saw him there. I didn't get a chance to speak with him, but did you talk to him about how he's feeling?
Yeah, very briefly. I just checked in and asked him if he was okay, and he said he was totally fine. And he also said that he expects to play on Tuesday. So that's what I would expect. Okay.
Before I ask you my next question, I want to just play a portion of what Mike Shildt had to say last night about Tatis and Jackson Merrill.
Getting into stride here at the end of the season, what does that mean, or could it mean?
It means quite a bit. I mean, they're two those two guys, and this is I gotta be careful, and I am biased when I say this. I gotta qualify this, but from a skill set, when you think about competition, how you beat the other team, the skill set between Toddy and Jackson is as good a duo that I believe there is in the game, because they can do it all. And it was on display today. I mean, Toddy got his 30th stolen base. That's a pretty impressive number, career high, I believe. And then 102 runs scored, also a career high. So that's indicative of what he can contribute. But they can beat you, and they've been on display with the glove. They can do it with the arm. They can do it with their range in the outfield. They can do it with their speed on the bases. They also, some guys can really run, but their baseball IQ on the bases isn't very high. They both not only run really well, but they make good decisions and have good instincts on the bases. They both, especially in Toddy's case, they're controlling the strike zone, and they both use the whole field. They both have other different things in the game. They see the game and play it, and then they both have the ability to hit the ball at the ballpark. So, I mean, that's a dynamic duo right there.
Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, where is AJ? Where did I put him? Sorry, AJ. I bounced you out for a second. Okay, can you hear me okay? All right, so I got you. That was Mike Shildt talking about his dynamic duo, and I loved watching those guys bat 1 and 2 yesterday. We've spent countless time on this show elsewhere talking about Luis Ariz and the best fit for him in the lineup. How tempted do you think the Padres are to have that version of Jackson Merrill and Tatis batting 1-2 in the lineup? What would be the case to have those guys at the top?
I think it's a pretty strong case if Jackson Merrill's hitting like this, if he's like the guy he was last season and like the guy we kind of see he can be. Like he is at various times this season, they've had different guys who you could say this about, but I think when they're all at their best, he's their best left-handed hitter. And I want my best left-handed hitter. I would say I want my best left-handed hitter hitting second against a right-handed pitcher in between Tatis and Machado. And so if you're running out a playoff lineup with Tatis, Merrill, Machado, and then I would argue if you're facing a lefty, if it's Tatis, Machado, Merrill, I think that's your optimized lineup. I think that's the best. I know Mike Shildt loves to have lineup stability, whether it's between pitchers or whether it's throughout the season. But if Jackson Merrill is on a roll like he was last year, like he can be, which I'm not like he needs to show it for a little more than what he's shown it for. He's had some ups and downs this season. He's had some times this season where he's looked lost. But if he is fully back to being Jackson Merrill, I love a lineup that goes Tatis, Merrill, Machado at the top.
How likely do you think that will be in New York? I mean, you had a pretty good sample size yesterday. I guess I understand it's the Rockies, but by his own accounts, Jackson Merrill said, "I'm back to myself from before the injuries." Like he's feeling it, especially with the opposite field home run earlier.
How likely is it in New York? I don't know. I guess we'll find out in New York. They haven't changed it to this point. The last year they moved guys around in the lineup by earlier in September than this. Luis Ariz has shown some positive things, but I think if they're gonna maneuver it, I don't think it's something they do on September 30th. I think it's something they do at some point this week. And if they're not going to shake it up, then I think we're going to probably know that by the end of the week.
If they don't shake it up, then next week we'll be second guessing Mike Schilt not shaking it up when you join me. All right, AJ. Thanks a lot. I'm not sure the next time that we talk, either they have locked something up or they're just about to do it. So we'll see what happens. Have fun in New York City. I'm looking forward to your piece on Michael King and Clay Holmes and their friendship and how geared up Michael King is for this start. That should be that series should be a blast. Juan Soto Juan Soto has 40 stolen bases. He's a 40-40 guy? No, 30-30 guy.
I thought it was 30, yeah. But it's still
Juan Soto?
Where did that come from? Yeah.
Who is this guy?
I'm looking forward to asking our Mets writer exactly that question.
All right. That's AJ Cassavell, Marty Caswell. Thanks. I can't speak today. It's really weird. Normally we talk at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm over caffeinated on too much coffee. Now it's 1:30 and I'm under caffeinated. So I'll remedy that right now. Thanks guys for joining me. I'm Marty Caswell. AJ Cassavell. We're brought to you by the all new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Have a lot of fun. I'll be scoreboard watching tonight. Dodgers and Phillies. I love that. That gets TV number one. I only have one TV. That gets the main TV over any NFL action. So you know what? The race of the playoffs.
NFL.
It's on.
Get that out of here. Get that
what?
NFL out of here.
What football?
Get that NFL out of here.
What NFL? No football. All right, AJ. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, Marty.
Bye, everybody. Peace.
It's a blast. It's a blast. I mean, it's every game's extremely important, and the crowd knows that both teams know it. Obviously, these guys are in the hunt as well, and so. This is great September baseball, and to be back a part of this is exactly why I wanted to be here. And we talked about it in April and May, and now to be September and be in the spot that I hope to be in is awesome.
Very excited. I feel very healthy. So it's fun to be a part of this team and play the game I love. So I'm very excited. Probably a little bit. I felt like I was still kind of grinding through some stuff then, and we're also getting to that crunch time. So it's game time,